Good evening, America, and welcome to It's Happening Out. It's 7 p.m. Wednesday, April 29. It is time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories are all next on Q News Tonight.
Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight.
Good evening again, and thank you for joining Q News Tonight. We are live, so anything can happen. Tonight, we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBT community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and this is my co-guest anchor and Misty Eyes.
Hi. So guess what? Tonight we're going to talk about our vice president yet again and masks.
And math.
And masks.
And my anchor partner, Napoleon Plays.
Hey everybody. Did Trump get people to call poison control more frequently? Stay tuned. We've got a lot of info on that.
Absolutely. So apparently a lot of Pence and a lot of Trump tonight.
Oh, yay.
You got it. Let's cue up the news.
Q News Tonight is part of the Happening Out television network. We are the world's most popular digital LGBTQ news and entertainment channel.
While other LGBTQ media has stopped publishing, limited their internet and web traffic, or ceased their video entertainment and news during this epidemic, we have actually doubled down on our commitment to the LGBTQ community.
Our website, it'shappeningout.com, is now Florida's largest daily traffic rank of any LGBTQ media, pride, gay business, or gay organization by a factor of more than 100 times greater. In fact, as of today, April 29, our website has grown in Alexa daily web traffic visitors to a rank of number 15,463 website in the entire world. And that's out of 900 million websites. We are committed to you, and we thank you for your support.
We are Q News Tonight, the world's only live daily LGBTQ evening news with more than 100,000 YouTube viewers a week. We are the Daily News.
We are also part of the most popular live gay TV show in the world, every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. called It's Happening Out. More than 500,000 watch each week in Facebook television. It's a talk show like television's The View with a whole lot of gay people.
Gay. And this is Wednesday night. And we're going to be, I understand all of our quarantined hosts are going to be with us tonight, which is fantastic. We're also HAPPENING.Fun, South Florida's most popular live entertainment show for concerts, festivals, parties, and Things to Fun, with more than 20,000 South Florida Facebook viewers a week.
And our LGBTQ television network supports the live broadcast of Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday Church Service, the world's most popular LGBTQ queer religious broadcast.
We are your #1 source of news and entertainment during this crisis, and we continue to grow. Thank you for your support.
Well, as you know, during the COVID-19 crisis, Q News Tonight will bring you today's coronavirus bullet points. The most important news of today in a segment we call Quarantine Quickies. Here are the headlines for quarantine on Wednesday, April 29, 2020. We begin by queuing up the Quarantine Quickies, the facts for today. First, cases. In the world, we report that there are now 3,190,000 cases, while in the United States there is 1,000,000 and almost 50,000. The USA is 4.4% of the world's population, and we now have 32.8% of the world's cases, a percentage that is slightly lower for the first time today. We report on the deaths. In world reporting for COVID-19, there are 225,000 deaths in the United States, we have crossed the 60,000 mark. We remind you again, 4.4% of the world's population, and we account for 26.8% of the world's death total. Again, a percentage that is slightly lower today. Testing and source tracing is the only thing that will return America to normal. And we remind you on March 6th, 51 days ago at the CDC, President Trump talked about testing. I'm not completely sure, are we going to show the president's remarks? We're going to, if not, move on to slide 3, which is our testing results. In the United States, we have 6,043,000 tests administered. And that sounds like a lot, but it really is not. Because there are 328 million Americans, the United States has only tested 1.8% of our population. And we remind you that American medical professionals recommend a 10% testing rate for reopening. So as a result in testing, we recognize our Hall of Fame states that are doing the best job in America. Number 3 at Massachusetts, testing 3.7%. Number 2, New York at 4.4%. And little Rhode Island still doing a gangbusters job at 5.6%. But remember, the target goal is 10. And we unfortunately finished the evening with our state's testing Hall of Shame. LGBTQ America, pay attention, because we hope you don't live in one of these states. And it seems to be these same states that we've been reporting all month. Number 5 is Texas, with testing just 1.1% of their population. Virginia is number 4, Arizona is number 3, Kansas in the continental United States is number 2 at only testing 96 out of every, only 9.6 out of every 1,000 people in their state. And number 1 continues to be poor Puerto Rico with only 0.38%. And an interesting note, since our reporting last night, Puerto Rico has done almost no testing in the last 24 hours.
Quarantine quickies. COVID-19 antibody testing now available in your home? Is a vaccine on the way? We prepared a little video. Watch this.
Area similar to a rapid flu test. Dr. O'Dilly calling this tiny kit a game changer.
We use the lancet to prick the blood, and then the capillary tube draws the blood, and we insert it into the slot here.
Then you wait, but not long.
There we go.
Results in as little as 10 minutes can tell whether you've had the virus and now have antibodies, which can serve as an immunity to contracting it again.
Antibody tests look for signs in the blood that a person has been exposed to the coronavirus. Knowing who has been exposed, along with how many people have been, may help to better understand the spread of the virus. This is especially important as studies continue to show that significant percentages of all coronavirus carriers, in some studies up to half, show no symptoms at all. The FDA said this month, quote, "The question of when we can return to work and resume to our normal activities is one of the most critical issues facing our nation. Antibody tests, also known as serological tests, may have the potential to play a role in this complex calculation." Quest Laboratories has announced a mail-in home test, and many pharmacies are now providing antibody testing. As of today, however, the medical information is not complete enough to answer if you should get an antibody test, because the outcome of whether this makes you immune to a second infection of COVID-19 is unclear.
Quarantine quickies. Days after Germany reopens, COVID-19 cases spike again. U.S. governors pushing to reopen their states after COVID-19-driven lockdowns may want to look to Germany on Wednesday, today, where an early attempt to lift restrictions on movement has led to an increase in the coronavirus infection rate. The head of Germany's Robert Koch Institute for Infectious Diseases, Lothar Weiler, said the virus reproduction rate has climbed back to 1.0, meaning that each infected person is infecting at least one other on average. This was a 30% increase for infection. The reproduction rate had fallen to 0.7 at the peak of lockdowns and stay-at-home orders. Germany is one of the countries attempting to gradually reopen after its widespread testing and contact tracing helped it achieve one of the lowest fatality rates from the virus in the world, and a death tally that is way below other European countries. Quote, "Let's, insofar as possible, stay at home. Let's stick to the reduced contact," Weiler told reports at a news conference, Reuters reported. German Chancellor Merkel expressed significant concerns of the reopening announcements linked to the significant increase in the new infections in the 9 days since the new policy has taken effect. Germany is an example that the state governors should be watching very closely.
Quarantine quickies. Gilead's COVID-19 treatment passes a critical trial. Gilead's experimental coronavirus drug Remdesivir has hit its goals in a government-sponsored trial and may be effective in just a 5-day closing regimen, the drug maker announced this morning. The company, quote, is aware of positive data emerging from a study funded by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. It said, adding that the agency is expected to provide more details soon. Positive data from the NIAID trial would be landmark in the race to find a coronavirus treatment, where no drug has yet been proven effective. Other early data for the drug, including results from a Chinese trial accidentally leaked by the World Health Organization, has been mixed. The medical journal The Lancet responded to Gilead's news this morning by rushing to publish the inclusion results from the Chinese study. Gilead released its own study results this morning, suggesting that severely ill patients receiving 5 days of the drug fared just as well as patients receiving a 10-day closing regimen. More than half of both closing groups were discharged from the hospital within 2 weeks beginning the medication.
Quarantine quickies. Why do Trump and Pence continue to ignore their own experts and refuse to wear masks? We have a little video for you. Watch this.
Face mask. What would people gain from wearing a mask, and why are you opposed to wearing one yourself?
Well, I just don't want to wear one myself. It's a recommendation. They recommend it. I'm feeling good. I just don't want to be doing, I don't know, somehow sitting in the Oval Office behind that beautiful Resolute desk, the great Resolute desk. I think wearing a face mask as I greet presidents, prime ministers, dictators, kings, queens, I don't know, somehow I don't see it for myself. I just maybe I'll change my mind, but this will pass, and hopefully it'll pass very quickly.
When Vice President Mike Pence walked into the Mayo Clinic on yesterday, he wasn't wearing a face mask. After all, it had been the policy of the renowned Rochester, Minnesota facility since April 13th. They even say they'll provide one for you. Pence was told of the new rules before he visited. The clinic said on Twitter, a post that was subsequently deleted. But as he visited a blood and plasma donation center inside the building, Pence was barefaced. Others in the room, including press, and including Dr. Stephen Hahn, the Food and Drug Administration head, wore facial coverings. Pence seemed to follow President Trump in not wearing a mask. Many health professionals criticized the vice president for sending the wrong signal to the American public. Even the First Lady Melania Trump has done PSAs encouraging people to wear masks. The Mayo Clinic briefed Pence's team about the clinic's policy to require face masks. When Pence and the team, including reporters, arrived at the clinical facility, personnel from the facility had masks available for the group, including Pence. I'm sorry, I'm choking. During the tour, the rest of the entourage wore masks, but Pence chose not to. A source familiar with discussions said it is not clear that despite Vice Pence said in his defending himself of not wearing a mask, Pence's staff now understand this was a huge mistake. News reports after the visit focused on whether he wore a mask or not, and the work, instead of focusing on the work being done at the clinic. Pence's staff now believe they should have made sure he wore masks to avoid news cycles, says the source.
Tonight we bring you a mini sample of Q's Q&A on coronavirus and the LGBT community. Every Thursday night on Q News Tonight at 7 p.m., we have experts to answer your questions that need answered. We invite you to join our special Facebook group to ask all your questions. Tonight, we will give you some examples of questions viewers are asking on Thursday night, and we'll have medical experts to help you with those answers. So tonight, a little mini Q's, Q, and A. First, a question for Misty. A viewer asked Misty, how has the pandemic affected your plans for long-term future?
That's a good question, Al. And sorry, I was trying not to cough, and therefore I'm like, oh my gosh, I want people to think I have coronavirus and I'm dying because I'm trying not to breathe.
It's okay. We just know you have a gag reflex.
That's it.
Wait. Do you have coronavirus?
No, I do not have coronavirus.
Or do you have a gag reflex?
I might have a gag reflex. I might not. That is none of your business. But answering the question, I'm sorry, now that I can almost talk again. The coronavirus pandemic has affected my immediate future and somewhat long-distance future as well. My husband and I were married in June, and every year we go on a cruise. And this year we were going to my home state, Alaska, the last week of June and the first week of July we were going to be there. And the borders were shut in Canada where we were getting on the boat, and the borders were shut in Anchorage until July 1st. So our cruise has been completely canceled. Also, I'm in school, and my summer school, I'm taking a very difficult class, supposedly on Monday night, starting May 11th. And if I have to do online learning, I might not be able to do the class if I'm not able to do it in person. So I'm kind of in a toss-up of, am I going to summer school or not?
In Q's Q&A, a viewer asked a question of Napoleon. And the question the viewer asked is, do you have any comfort food that has helped your stress levels during COVID-19? And I know what you eat, so don't lie.
Meat. I have been eating so much more actual meat. I tend to stick toward vegetarian, or at least I did in the before times. But now I tend to eat a lot of meat, and that is red meat. It is very delicious, and it is definitely my comfort food. Also chips. Don't like that I like chips, but I do.
You're eating a lot of snack foods?
I know. I can't go to the gym, so I might as well eat instead, is my decision. Apparently that makes sense.
Stress eating's good for you.
Yeah. Okay, so Al, we have a question specifically for you. A viewer asks, as an older gentleman, read the queen of the room, what extra precautions do you take for the coronavirus?
Well, it's very funny. And Napoleon's reading me all the time, as you know, Misty, about my age. It's jealous. Party at 1.
He'll be there one day.
Right, exactly.
Corona doesn't kill me first.
Exactly. Yeah. But this is really a very serious question, especially with the passing of Ron Brunensky, who was older than me. At my age, I'm in my 50s, it is a great risk. It's a much greater risk than, for example, millennial Napoleon. So I pay attention to my contact. I pay attention to my face mask. We're socially isolated here, by the way, at this it's happening out
Distance.
and Q News tonight. Distance, thank you. And I make sure that I'm using sanitizer, and right from the very beginning, I would say, because we did Q News tonight, we were kind of ahead of the curve in understanding what was coming, even into January. And so we were paying a lot of attention to it. So I am very conscious of who I'm around, how I'm acting around the people that I'm around, and what precautions I'm taking. And it is very unique for me because of my age. We are going to do much of that, but very specific to your medical questions, tomorrow night on Q News Tonight. We'll have Dr. Grossman with us, and we have many great questions of all of the latest on COVID that you'll want to know in terms of asking your questions, especially that new Gilead study about a potential vaccine or treatment. We'd like to thank tonight our set designer, Concepto Modern Living, here in Fort Lauderdale, for making this great set in this living museum possible. And tonight we are still broadcasting, of course, from our studio set in the middle of the World AIDS Museum and Education Center. The museum is located in Wilton Manors and Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
We joke. We're coming from the gayest place on planet Earth. And Aaron Dar, even without you here, that still seems to be true.
I'm beginning to wonder. I always make a joke about Napoleon Gayest Place, but now that I hear that he's eating chips, maybe not so gay anymore.
Something's got to go in the mouth.
Right.
It may feel that the world is in crisis, And that means now, right now, is the time to come together.
In pandemic, the LGBTQ community must come together.
Are LGBTQ voices important to you?
Can the news of the world have a gay community perspective?
If you, like us, think the answer is a resounding yes,
Then like Q News Tonight on Facebook.
And subscribe to Q News Tonight on YouTube.
Tonight we're going to queue up Vote 2020, and we report tonight that Amash for America, Justin Amash, is running for President of the United States. Before Napoleon tells you about what's happening, we've prepared this.
Michigan Congressman Justin Amash has made it official. He's hoping to be the nominee for the Libertarian Party. The former Republican turned independent tweeted the announcement tonight, saying, "Americans are ready for practical approaches based in humility and trust of the people. We're ready for a presidency that will restore respect for our Constitution and bring people together. I'm excited and honored to be taking these first steps towards serving Americans of every background as president."
Amash is very popular in Michigan and has been known for being very critical of Trump. In fact, he voted for the impeachment. It was until last July in 2019 that he was actually a Republican and part of the Republican Party. Now, this is very disturbing news because he is one of many candidates who is potentially going to be running in this new election of 2020, should it happen, in conjunction with Joe Biden and, of course, President Trump. Another representative who may be running is a Minnesota man, Jesse Ventura, who is a former wrestler.
The Body.
Yes, he knows how to work a crowd. He knows how to work many things, and he's very charismatic. And he's looking for the Green Party nomination. So we have a Libertarian probable nomination and a Green Party nomination. The reason that this is bad news is because, well, if you remember 2016 and Jill Stein, it is not that difficult to get some other people to vote for anyone that's not Trump. And unfortunately, for many people that just want Trump out of office, Jesse Ventura is very pro-Bernie Sanders, which means that he takes over a lot of those ideals, and a lot of the Bernie bros may vote for him. To just give you a little bit of an indication how much of a problem this might be in terms of getting Trump out of office, this is exactly what Trump said. Quote, "No, I think Amash would make a wonderful candidate, especially since he is way behind in his district and has no chance of maintaining the congressional seat," he tweeted today. "He almost always votes for the do-nothing Dems anyway. I like him even more than Jill Stein."
We continue by queuing up the USA Tonight by reporting that social distancing fails at a rabbi's funeral yesterday in New York City. Misty, tell us about what this shocking event was all about.
So what had happened? What happened? Rabbi Chaim Mertz died from COVID-19, and several thousand people decided to show up at his funeral in the streets of New York, in Manhattan. And what obviously happened, the mayor, Bill de Blasio, sent in police to break up the several thousand people herd. This was very, very life-threatening. They have several police officers just to enforce social distancing rules. They've already arrested 11 people not related to this incident and summoned 134 people that have broken boundary rules in parks, stores, and other social gathering. But the reason this is major news is because some of the people, if you got a slap on the wrist, or if your mom or dad scorned you, you're going to be embarrassed and you're going to be mad, and you're going to say it's because of this. And now they're saying this was anti-Semitic, and that the mayor was being anti-Jewish, and he broke it up because it was a Jewish funeral. But the mayor said, quote, "I spoke out of real distress that people's lives were in danger before my eyes, and I was not going to tolerate it. I regret it the way I said it, in any way that might have given people a feeling that I mistreated and was done in the wrong way. That was not my intention. It was said with love, it was tough love, it was anger, and it was frustration." But I see both sides of the coin here. When the rabbi died of COVID-19, people around him, his loved ones, his family, his followers, might be carrying the virus. They were with him, they were near him, and now are they going to go to his funeral? Absolutely. And now you have several thousand people confined into this little space. I don't blame him for breaking it up. I would have broke it up for anybody.
As a New Yorker and a Jew, this is very frustrating to me for the same reason that it's frustrating when gay people are going out on Grindr or hooking up. This is not a good thing for the Jewish population. All that we need right now, of course, is to have all of these people that were at that funeral become positive with COVID-19 and then spread it to others, because then you're going to have people around the world, not the Pope, but other representatives of the Christian faith saying that this is a Jewish problem and that the Jews are spreading this and that the Jews are dirty. I wish that they could think for just a second longer to perhaps think beyond just the service that they want to provide for the rabbi and really worry about the community and what they're representing.
How do you give comfort and solace to somebody mourning without hugging them and kissing them and loving them? How do you keep your social distance at a funeral?
Here's the math of the medicine, the medical observation. We watch this video. Look at how many people have masks on, but their noses are not covered. So as a result, there's no value in having the mask. And then in addition to that issue, we've reported tonight in the show, we know 25% of COVID is asymptomatic. Yeah. Some studies are showing as much as 50%. So assume 25% of the people there that do have COVID are carrying it and are completely asymptomatic. This is not anti-Semitic. The mayor's response was anti-ignorance, and that's what happened here. We end tonight's broadcast with the big finish. A short story mentions of the LGBT news or news with a gay perspective. So here we go. We finish tonight's Q News Tonight with the big finish. Queuing up the first story, the big finish. Trump can't imagine why there's a spike in poison control calls after his disinfectant comments.
Let's reason. Of course, he can't relate to parents calling poison control on their malleable children's brains because Trump never had parents that loved him. And in that vein, has anybody bothered to check on where Donald Trump Jr. is and if he's okay?
Newsflash, President Trump, you're the leader of our country. Hundreds of thousands of people are watching you, following you, and some of those people lack common sense. And I want to close by saying Proverbs 18:21. You have the power of life and death in your tongue. Things that we say in front of other people can give life or give death. And if people take your words for literal value, you might have caused some death.
Both of those observations are awesome. Did you watch the briefing, America? The reporter asked about the 911 calls over injecting disinfectant into your body and then asked the new paid spokesman for both Lysol spray and Clorox bleach, Mr. President, why did the public have misunderstanding? All Trump could do to mop up his mess is answer, can't imagine why. That's it. No remorse, no sympathy for misinformation, no cares about anyone else's health but himself. So I don't know either. Which is more likely? That Trump is lying about this and is being duplicitous, or that he is just simply stupid and he really doesn't understand? Either way, the LGBT community has been saying about you as president, I can't imagine why. The big finish. And now the weather. Penn State speculates 2020 hurricane season could be the most disastrous in history.
Good news for Florida. We already have the return of bird flu, locusts swarming parts of the world in record amounts, and highly possible solar flares for extreme power outages. And I'm sure this flooding will sweep the water with its blood. Has anybody bothered to see if the people that are dying from corona are all firstborn? I'm calling it now. The 10 plagues of Egypt have returned.
Can you imagine if that were true? I would die for real. I'm the oldest. Oh my gosh. So right before Easter, the Pope went on record as saying that coronavirus was a response to us not listening to Mother Earth. The Australian fires, the global melting, etc. Today on Facebook, just before I went to get ready for tonight's show, I saw this post on a friend's Facebook, and I'm just going to say it verbatim and leave it here. Dear Christians, did you ever notice that once you made a godless, lawless, lying, womanizing con man as your new Messiah, a plague showed up? Sincerely yours, everyone else.
You know, I never realized that I was going to be part of a gay show where everyone were religious zealots. At the rate we're going, I'm pretty sure Trump supporters would just go to the beach as the hurricane landed and shout at the storm for being fake news. Then, when 58,220 Americans died from this, Trump would tweet another endless storm. I can read it now, 2:37 a.m. First tweet. It's Puerto Rico's fault because they are an island, you know, out in the water. Then the second, a tweet saying it was the mayor's and governor's fault. I have no responsibility and did everything perfect. Then a third tweet. It was Obama's fault. I inherited a mess. It was a disaster, but it's beautiful now, the best ever. And then we'll throw someone a roll of Bounty paper towels. By the way, I'm taking a page out of Trump's emoluments playbook. Bounty just paid me $100 for the mention, and I'm keeping it. The big finish. Mile-wide asteroid is set to pass within 3.9 million miles of Earth tonight.
I truly cannot comprehend what that distance even means in that number, but I assume it means close by. I just hope that the scientists that said this weren't using gay measurements, because then 3.9 million probably means significantly smaller.
That's right. Why have women been doing so bad at math? Men have been telling us this is 8 inches for years. But I imagine that we will be affected by this because of gravitational pull or something. And my response is, I've got chills, they're multiplying, and I'm losing control. I hope it doesn't affect us more than that.
Seriously, the meteor's name is called 52768, 52,768. Coincidentally, nearly the same number of people that have died because of our federal government's incompetent response to COVID-19. Dr. Brad Tucker, an astrophysicist at the Australian National University, said, this asteroid possesses no danger to Earth and will not hit. Fortunately, it is not one catastrophe that we'll have to deal with. While it is big, it is still smaller than the asteroid that impacted the Earth and wiped out the dinosaurs. Sorry, Doc, you don't get it right. I have already been told by a reliable source there is an entire internet campaign surrounding the 2020 election called Giant Meteor 2020, seriously, to show their dismay at the upcoming election. But that meteor has already hit the planet on January 20, 2017. It wiped out black people, trans people, built a wall to keep the Latino dinosaurs on our southern border out. So personally, I want a planetary meteor defense system. Remember, it's got to be in place by November 3rd to avert worldwide destruction. Unfortunately, I just think the youth of America want the world to end so they can finally have a good excuse as why they're not going to vote.
Maybe the meteor will get an election bid too. It could run in the Libertarian Party itself.
The big finish. No Context Wednesday. First time we've done this. Switzerland says young children can hug grandparents.
This sounds like it came from the mouth of Betsy DeVos. Speaking of her, this headline finally helps me understand her disdain for keeping children safe. She has 5 grandkids, and even before Corona, I bet she didn't get a hug from any one of them.
Dirty, germ-carrying kids can now infect their grandparents with COVID-19. Rest in peace, many Swiss senior citizens.
I had no idea it was going to go in that direction. This is the real truth. The Children's Court in Switzerland, a court made up of 9 children, ages ranging from 5 to 11, affirmed the death penalty today for pinch cheeking, with the vote being unanimous at 9-0. You're going to laugh later. The big finish. Happy 65th birthday to Leslie Jordan.
Still on the dirty kids. That did not sound right out of context. Jordan is known for his roles in Will and Grace, American Horror Story, and The Cool Kids, which is a show that David Alan Grier, Vicki Lawrence, and Martin Mull are all starring in, and they take place, or they live in a retirement home. If there is any show I would want to see about Corona lockdown, it would be these stellar comedic actors locked in their own rooms, struggling to cope. Unfortunately, it airs on Fox, so I'd expect a disclaimer about how the show is a liberal scam.
Thank you, Brother Boy. Thank you, Leslie, for your role as Brother Boy, is what I meant to say, in Sordid Lives, a black comedy about white trash. And one of my favorite scenes is he was like, "Get your vagina out of my face! I will not participate in my own recovery."
That's a good expression. That's a good hymn.
Brother Boy has reached, as Misty says, gay iconic status. But for a reason most of you here at the table don't even know. Of course, he is the drag-feathered, slippered, pill-popping homosexual from the cult classic Sordid Lives.
True.
But I prefer my sissified gay boy sassy with a bite. He is Beverly Leslie from Will and Grace. It is so real, the character, because frequently that is who he really is. And he came screaming out of the closet to say he was queer and proud. You just knew you were going to love him when the very first time he is in a bar and meets his straight girlfriend, arch nemesis Karen Walker, he famously says, "Well, well, well, I thought I smelled gin and regret." And they were off to the races, slicing and dicing like every gay boy does with his straight girl bestie. She famously said to Beverly Leslie, looking him up and down, viciously judging him with her eyes, pausing and then finally saying, "You're gay as a clutch purse on Tony night." It was funny because it was really true. And for me, there was religion. He represented it. Leslie Jordan was famous for it in the gay community, growing up in Chattanooga and Southern Baptists. True. He once said, "I was baptized 14 times. Every time the preacher would say, 'Come forward, sinners,' I would say, 'Ooh, I was out in the woods last night with that boy. I better go forward.'" So truly, no jokes. Happy birthday, Leslie Jordan.
Yeah.
You made me laugh. Funny that you would give the gift for your birthday present. The Big Finish. On this day in 1967, Respect by Aretha Franklin was released.
And the world thanks her because, Aretha, you made sure that Donald Trump can at least spell one word correctly.
Truth. And I also second that. Drag queens across the globe are also thanking you. What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, do you know I got it? All I'm asking is for a little respect when you get home. That's it, honey. Come on, Aretha.
Respect by the late, great Aretha Franklin is a song about women standing and stating their needs clearly to their husband, who she doesn't feel is giving her her due respect. It has become the anthem of any person struggling in this world against those who would hold them back, and of course, including the LGBTQ community. I often talk here about broader political points, but I want to scale it down and discuss a personal happiness for a moment. We are LGBTQ, living our lives fighting so much and often settling for less because we are grateful that we don't have it so much worse. I lived in this paradigm for a long time. It doesn't matter if you're straight or gay or trans or Jewish or black or Latino or all of the above. You deserve respect. We too often do not demand it from others, and it allows us to be taken advantage of by people who don't even realize it because we stay silent, or worse, we accept. Surprisingly, that is my story. So today, it is vitally important that we in the LGBT community do not stay silent in regards to politics, but I fear our personal lives must be conquered first to achieve success. I hope you will give this amazing song another listen. And if it makes you think of someone who doesn't give you respect that you know you deserve, spell it out for them clearly. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. And I just told you what it means to me. That's it for today's news for the LGBT community on the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show. Remember, if it's important to the LGBTQ community, it's important to Q News Tonight. But you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube and share this news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. This is the only source of live LGBTQ news in the world. Your community needs your support. You're not alone. We will get through this crisis. We are here with you, and this is Q News Tonight. Thank you for joining us, and I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of Misty Eyes and Napoleon Plays, we'll see you tomorrow night at 7.